world's ancient great empires come some beautiful and exotic flavours. Add some fire and spice and you have the wonderfully seductive world of Persian food. Join our food safari to learn how to create the rice dish of celebration, the secrets of an expert kebab maker, a classic dish of the Sultan's gourmet sabzi, and a seductive rosewater dessert.
Persian food is not only Iran, it's wider than that geographically. It would go to Afghanistan, part of Central Asia and surrounding countries of Iran. It is a very balanced food. It is time-consuming, it's labor-intensive, but at the end, it's yummy, it's delicious.
Rasul Sajadi was born into a food-loving family in the Shiraz province in southwest Iran, a farming area with abundant fruit and vegetables. After fleeing his homeland, Rasul and his family settled in Australia and opened an emporium full of everything from 10 sorts of rice to musical instruments and backgammon boards. Tell me how essential rice is in Persian cuisine.
The Iranians are usually very fussy about the way they prepare their rice. It has to be next to perfect. Because this is the main dish, basically. This is the longest grain and the most aromatic rice that we can find here in Australia.
It says aged.
Yes, it has to be aged. If the rice is not aged, it would be sticky, wouldn't be as fluffy, and at the same time wouldn't have the same aroma and the same flavor.
Same magic.
So it has to be aged. 2 years to 3 years is best. We use saffron a lot, and we believe that Persian saffron is the best. It's stronger in flavor and it's stronger in color.
So saffron's the main spice, but there are other things that
Apart
Persian
from
people
saffron, the next spice, real spice, would be turmeric. We add it to almost every stew.
For colour and flavour.
For colour and flavour. Herbs are used a lot in Persian cuisine.
And are you using fresh or dried?
Fresh if we can, but some people dry them and use them in the winter. In gourmet sabzi, for instance, there's 3 different herbs used. Parsley, leeks, and a smaller portion of fenugreek. This is dried lime. It's used for its flavor and for its soury taste. It's used a lot in gourmet sabzi.
So would you say the Persian taste buds love a little bit of tang?
Indeed, indeed. Traditionally, ghee is used a lot in Persian cuisine. We warm it up and garnish basically our rice. Not only it gives a non-sticky kind of texture to the rice, at the same time it gives it a nice, very nice flavor.
Brussels tea is something that you adore, isn't it?
Usually we have tea after every meal. It's treated with a lot of respect when we have tea.
And you drink it black?
We drink it black.
But you love your sugar, don't you?
Most people would probably put the sugar cube in their mouth and they sip their tea together with the sugar cube in their mouth, and it gradually melts as you drink your tea.
Rasul, dried fruit plays a huge part in the cuisine, doesn't it?
For cooking, I guess this would be the most popular one. Poloui, which goes with polo. They call it poloui keshmesh.
Through the beautiful rice.
Beautiful rice.
So that's quite sweet?
It's sweet and sour.
These are one of my favourite things, and they're grown in Iran, are they?
They're grown in Iran, they're grown in Shiraz, that's why we call them Shirazi anjir.
And they're little figs.
And they're little figs, yeah. They're not as big as ordinary figs, but they're sweeter. Some people soak them overnight in water or milk and have them as a snack or as a cereal in the morning.
Yum.
Kashk is a sub-product of yogurt, and it's used mainly with the kashk bademjun, which is a popular dish.
And so what's the flavour of this?
It's got a strong yogurt or butter flavour. Barberry is a wild berry, and they are wildly grown in the skirt of the mountains in the northwest of Iran. And they are used mainly in zeresh polo.
And because they're sour, do you need to do something to them to mellow their flavour?
In cooking, some add a little bit of sugar to that as they cook it, but I wouldn't use sugar.
No?
I wouldn't.
To many of us, kebabs are all roughly the same. To a Persian, there are 1,000 fine distinctions. The quality and cut of the meat, the marinades and the spicing. But they're all cooked on the sword-like skewers called a shish.
We make kebab of fish, we make kebab of prawns, we make kebab of everything. Kebab is the main part of the Persian menu, Persian cuisine.
Mehdi Malek is one of the top kebab makers. His skills prized by restaurateur Kami Shapari in his Sydney restaurant Kolbe.
This is called kubide. Kubide, in fact, means minced or smashed meat.
So these are called the shish?
Sikh.
The sikh.
Sikh.
And what's the history?
I believe that the soldier used to use it while they were at war, since they didn't have a facility to cook.
Oh, so they cook on their swords?
Whenever they find a meat somewhere, they stick it on the sword and put it on the fire.
Now that's very interesting how you've done that. So
We call it loghme, that means bite. Each one of them is one bite. You can eat it with one bite.
It's the same.
It is exactly the same.
Has to be.
Yeah.
That's one of the art of this. This is barge. The thin stripes of the meat, he's putting them on a skew.
So he's trying to thread this through something that's what?
That's
a few
probably
millimetres
a few
thick.
millimeters.
Look how quickly he does it.
That's why.
A perfect bug.
The perfect bag.
The bug is dipped into onion juice and saffron before cooking.
Cooking it, you have to have a notion of time. They are quite sensitive, these kebabs. If you overcook one side and undercook the other side, they separate from the skew and they fall off on the fire. So he has to cook them equally on each side.
I bet Malik doesn't have very many fall down.
Yeah.
No,
Never.
never.
Finished. Looks beautiful. The sound as the bread is slapped into shape for the tannoor oven is the sign of a good restaurant. Fresh, warm bread is a must, and the result is a golden crust and a slightly spongy texture. No Persian meal is complete without it. Persian bread is called taftan and is made from a mix of wholemeal and white flour. Rye is sometimes used as well. Most of the process made by hand, as it has been for hundreds of years. The bread just moist enough to stick on the hot clay sides of the oven. Most good restaurants have their own tannoor oven. Jason Agrami from Sydney's Vatan restaurant has 2 ovens and a specialist baker, serving freshly baked bread with all meals. He once ran a fish cafe by the beach in Sydney, but decided the flavours of his childhood were much more exciting. One of his favourite dishes is gourmet sabzi, a slow-cooked dish with duck, dried lime and a mountain of herbs. Parsley, coriander, garlic chives and dried fenugreek leaves.
You couldn't find it fresh.
So you normally use these fresh in Iran?
Yes, fresh, yeah. And when you start fry it, even 2-3 homes away, you know, they know you're doing the sabzi. Yeah.
The dish starts with onions fried in a few tablespoons of ghee.
Just sweat the onions, let it to get a little bit colour.
Then the meat is added. Jason likes to use the rich flavour of duck. And duck is popular in Iran, is it?
Yeah, duck is popular in north and west of Iran, very popular. Put some turmeric, just a pinch.